Hello, hello, hello. And we are here at Out of the Mud Universe at the Out of the Mud Studios in beautiful downtown Flint. And Out of the Mud presents today Connected and Protected with Dehru Mitchell. And today's subject is general consensus. And here's Dehru.
And good evening. I started today with a general consensus because this is basically my general consensus. I've been through a lot of the paradigms, a lot of the knowledges, a lot of the way things have been presented throughout the years. I recently enjoyed my 70th birthday, and I have come to understand things over a period of time that, took me out of confusion, allow me to crystallize a few things and come to the understanding of a general consensus that in a lot of ways most things are being repeated up until present time. We can start at any point with a genesis, a beginning, a point of inception, any of those names that gives you a place to start, even originality. And so, from that point, I looked at some of the people I chose to be authors or conveyors of truth with, I don't know, I would say inestimable knowledge of things. They just came with so much that it either built up a story or it broke down a story. It told you a truth or it told you of the lies. And these things I found ran in general streams of how would you say it? Exposure through lectures, through the teachings, through those people who consider themselves experts, um, say experts or professionals, or they come in line with scholars such as the ones with doctorates, degrees, and PhDs, and so on and so forth. They have those um, tenures, is one word they call it, where they have a group of people who tend to verify each other's levels of knowledge and the things that they think and the way that they think, even to the way that they teach it, the way that they make it to be in societies, so that others feel as though they're able to give you on the on your ability to comprehend, digest, and regurgitate information and utilize. Don't forget utilize, because it does take the utilization or the using of whatever you decide to do on a very consistent basis to proffer or to say be good enough at it for it to benefit you and profit you and give you a manner of life that either excels in this world or it maintains. Now, these things I found as a general consensus have so many varied fields of knowledge, usage, doing that you can live within paradigms and you can live as individual. You can follow a group, you can exist within a group such as a nation, a country, a state, a city, a community, down to a very small village, including a family unit. And within all of those structures of um, conformity that is labeled as such, You can be outstanding, or you can be even a general allower of it to be something consistent by your efforts and continually maintaining it. Or you can be a detractor from it, which means that in a sense you're going to be devaluing it or making it less productive. And this goes from everything from a family unit all the way up to, you could say, government in this country, you know. And to some extent, they have various names for people like that too. They call them opposers or traitors or, you know, anything of that nature. Some would even say, let's see, adversaries and enemies, so on and so forth. So, you know, on a general consistent basis, as I was saying, we can go from my search through the, let's see, what would you call it? Through the knowledges that this society is built on and the structures that this society is built on. It doesn't matter how you quite get it. As a matter of personal choice, individuals can live within it in any manner that they choose to. You can be conflictual with it, or you can grab a certain paradigm in it and cause it to be a career in your life that will usually give you a adequate life, if not a superlative life. You can reach the highest pinnacle of a career in any um, field of endeavor that you choose. Anywhere from being a what do you call it, a astrophysicist, all the way down to a farmer. You can go from um, let me see, how could you frame a storyteller, such as a writer of literature, all the way down to a statistician, which uses numbers to project a visual image of what goes on year by year, rate by rate, in the numbers of statistics that people say, okay, you're a member of this or you're a part of that. And we have numbers built up on populations, the movement of populations, the way populations thinks, the way populations do. And I found that from the standpoint of the people that I have taken a liking to and desired and have a general trust in, having a full knowledge of what they're speaking of and the way they see things in the world, that I can't deny that they actually know what they're talking about. And if you follow it from its beginnings, which is called research, if you do the research, you will understand, because it's so many different and varied forms of life and activity in America, as it said, that you can't go to a broad extent where you take on desiring, because I did actually take on the desire to know the originality of everything and follow it through its course from its beginnings to present time, which is it's a magnanimous feat to even get a few of those things. Now, like I said, I took into consideration that there were some people who did it. They They jumped on it early in life. They desired to not have these things as a way of restating and telling the world of how the world was being, how the world was manipulated, structured, and formed so that societies on a individual basis, and I mean societies as well as countries and so on and so forth, were structured to rise, have a heyday, and then seemingly other people came and took that heyday away, which is called invading, conquering, so on and so forth. And over a period of at least written history, it's well known, it's well documented in all areas. You know, anything that you can think of, you can find documentation for, at least at the onset of other people stating what it was so that other people would know what it was later on down the line, or, you know, as it occurred in its daily activities. You know, you had everything from, I guess you could call it now, the Anunnaki Chronicles, where supposedly outward galaxies and universes and so on and so forth, the entities, or shall I say people of those things, because I guess they consider themselves people. We consider them entities, or we consider them species or races or whatever you want to call them. Everything from the mm, mm, what we know as the Anunnaki here on Earth to, the demons of and angels and demons that proliferated themselves into and dissolved themselves into and probably are still around in today's societies and worlds and countries and so on and so forth, still making things happen that, is supposedly leading to a end agenda that was pre-written. Oh, who can say hundreds of thousands of years ago? Because who can say actually, um, we do know, according to the time of the study of things that have been left from antiquity to today, which some things are still being discovered and dated and aged and, you know, meshed into things. But we do know on a timeline of a sort that certain things came about at certain times, and on a consistent timeline, or a consistent way of storytelling. They started out in the manner of what these entities wanted from this planet and on this planet, until this planet itself gave life to what it could, because it was a living organism also. Now we come to just say 2025, which is this year, and we can say no matter what stretch of the imagination you tend to use your imagination in, you can further it. I mean, of course, there's the totality of it that you must take into account when it goes into, you know, a stretch of the imagination, which is the furthering of it. And you begin to see in that totality that is working as planned by those who began it. I have subsequently, or on a consistent basis, have became more and more clear in mind of the things that I've went through in life, the things I've seen in life, the things that I probably inadvertently, because some things you don't know are affecting you, because you're not aware of them, but nevertheless, you are affected by them and you act on how they affect you to the effects that you give off and cause results of in your life. So I would tend to say, in a lot of ways, you know, I have a lot of memories, some still quite vague, but nonetheless there. And that's the point of I would like to make that because they say sometimes if you don't use it, you lose it. I beg to differ. I don't think anything ever leaves or is lost. It's just a matter of if you choose to recall it, refresh yourself on it, and find any use for it. Because if not, you know, you're stashed away in what a business would call or any other um, corporation in junk files. You know, and you got a big file cabinet up there, you know, on the top of your neck inside your skull called a brain. And it has its own compartments, millions of them, you know. That's more apt to be comparative to the biggest and smallest computers that they have. And you know they have quantum computers now that no bigger than let's say you know the serial checks, those little squares. Yeah, they have quantum computers no bigger than those now. They call them chips, of course, which is what checks would be considered too. But you know, those things hold a massive amount of information that is electrically, like the brain, transferred and made use of in the entire realm that we live in. And you know, I'll even go to say as far as we being either just plain third dimensional. I hate to put us down so much, but lummoxes or stupidos or people who are so small minded that we tend to think whatever we've confined ourselves into this world, into our lives, is all that there can be. But that's not the case. You can choose to go in any direction you want to. And I'll tell you, as a point of my, as I would say, general consensus, we do so in many ways, and in many ways we don't even know, such as we're intimate, interdimensional beings. We're conscious, unconscious, subconscious. We have dreamlike states, and we have illusional realities. We have delusion in the point that we can be told something and we can see it and make it a reality for ourselves, and it's not even there. But at the same time, uh, would that be digressing into a point where, you know, it gets to be like soup? The best flavors stay on the top, but if you don't get a big scoop of everything, the flavors don't blend in. So, um, there's another point I really want to make, and I really want to state that you could basically go through a whole lifetime and not find a point in life that you really want to stand on. You can drift through life as though you're tossed about by every wind that blows, and you know the wind blows north, east, south, and west. You can catch an air current, and you can go with that like what they call a Gulf Stream all the way around the world, even though you probably get turned around a couple of times or get caught in a circular motion a couple of times, and then you have to straight down and, you know, head on it in the direction that it leaves you headed. But you can find yourself very well structured if you get structure in the beginning. And that can be in any number of things. And that's why, certain people find genius in themselves when they just start to use their natural abilities at very early ages, and they seem to accumulate and accommodate knowledge seemingly otherworldly because they come into it so early in this world. You know, you got 2-year-olds that can read encyclopedias and so on and so forth. And that's not it's not a real strange thing. It's unusual to hear about it because usually those people are swept up and hid away and allowed to continue accelerated learning until they get to the point where, you know, they're doing things that haven't been completed, and they pick it up and carry it further. I ain't going to say they carry it to completion either, but because everything can be added to, expounded on, and given further um, distance. I was watching and looking, and you know, it was shown to me, and I, just going through a bunch of videos and so on and so forth, and they have now concluded that even those little stars that we see up there in the sky at night and so on and so forth, they're not just stars; they're whole galaxies. I'm like, wow, really? They say, yeah, and just because we have a certain amount of atmospheric conditions that don't allow us to see clearly as things would be if they were not having to be filtered through the lens of the eyes to a point where you might get a telescope or even a set of binoculars and look a little further. You would see much more in those skies at night than you normally even consider thinking about. And I, on the basis of what I've learned, as far as people stating their theories, or what they call theories, and projected hypotheses of things where they say they have come to a conclusion about certain things. It's a total menagerie. I mean, there's so many things that a person can go from elementary school all the way up through the highest academic learning in colleges and things, but then they can still even go back to the first colleges, which were in the motherland or in Africa. Not just in Africa though. They have finally professed that there are pyramids all around the world, and these things were done in ancient times, and all of them have writings and studies, what they call mystery schools, so on and so forth, that you know still haven't been deciphered. There's languages that still aren't known, but they were there at one time and so on. And then they have what they call ancient artifacts. They have ancient technologies. They have all of these things that they're now, just now, getting a better understanding of. And even though the pictures of them were clearly engraved in walls and things back in those times when they were, they're just now being imitated today, in the sense that they've caught up to a certain amount of technology and are now producing it and utilizing it. I mean, you got robotic machines sent to other planets, sending back photographs of things that they say they already really knew because they're in such books as, you know, well, the structure on Mars and the of the planets that they say they already know, but then they haven't actually sent, or they haven't given us the fact that they actually sent some exploratory manner of getting that knowledge firsthand. But then it came firsthand because they say there are other species or aliens or so on and so forth sending that information in on downloads, on channeling, on visitation even from other worlds. And we get it haphazardly down here on this level because we're not in those institutions that have followed these things all the way from their beginnings to now. Um, I've looked into a lot of the forms of what would you call empires, and the castings and characters and the roles of controllers, kings, monarchs, oligarchs, capitalists, so on and so forth, throughout history. And they generally tend to follow a mindset of a conjoining of spirituality, physicality, and intellectuality that some felt was so outstanding that they made whole empires from, whole movements of armies that intruded into other lands at times, controlled other lands at times, fell away to failure at times. They call it a rise and fall of civilizations and these things. And then you have your global resets. But let me continue with the rise and fall of civilizations because they say they run in 250-year cycles, but some go even to a larger cycle, which is called planetary resets. And these occur in 26,000-year cycles. And man, oh man, oh man, I tell you, until you get enough of them under a review to conform to a general consensus where all of them use a certain amount of each other to state things, be things, and run on. I mean, um, if you go to empires, you have a empire formed by a conquering and controlling force called armies, or let me see, armies. You can just say armies all the way down the line. You know, you had the Roman Empire done by a conquest of Rome, Roman invaders. They went across the world. You had the gang. You had the Khans, the Genghis Khans. However you go, there's a general sweep of them. I didn't write down no list and bring no list with me, but you can basically take my word for it from the time that there's stories in the Bible from the Israelites to the Canaanites to all of these other people who went and destroyed things and then were destroyed by groups of people, and you know it's all a continuous situation, and it's on the basis of now. close to what is considered by a general consensus end times. And there are many people either talking about it, still predicting in it what some clarifying predictions that were made called prophecies or whatever, whatever. And a lot of those things are beginning to show in a nature that it's been it's been told about from its beginning till now, and what is left of prophecy can be easily seen still coming about. So much so that there are some people who can pinpoint very accurately what is going on today, even though from a point where those who think they're causing it to be and making it that way still don't know the upheaval that the public or the masses of people can cause to either accelerate or degenerate or not happen at all. We come to a point where, hey, it's a beautiful thing to know, truthfully, that you have a mentality that can encompass all of this if you desire to know it and be a part of it if you desire to do it in any manner in which you choose to do. You can be the change you want to see, as they say, or you can be the one projecting a far reaching energy into what they call a conscious collective, a hive mind, you know, um, whatever other bases you want to put a large group of people in, where collectively they go for something and it becomes what they make it be. Even those who sit at home and just send their energy to it, consciously with purpose. You know, I am not at all surprised anymore that some of the things that I was being very hopeful of are taking place. They're coming, they're becoming a reality, a fruition, a very fruitful thing in this world that I know is going to change a a way that this world has always been to a way that this world can be and is going to be. Yeah, I mean, it's predicted, it's prophesied, and it begins when a person desires to see that change on a positive note. And those, you know, it's said that there's phases of times and things that are going to come in and leave out, and that some are going to rise and some are going to fall, and that there's all of those aspects of things like justice, uh, a resetting of the way things were intended from those who put a way in the world for the world to be. And it was thrown off, it was taken the other way by other things coming in later on and messing it up because it wanted it to be another way that it felt it had the power to make those things be that it wanted, contrary to the first things and the first ways of, say, life on this planet. And I see it coming back about because of the minds of those who have been here all the time, coming back and coming back and coming back and coming back and adding to themselves. There's those that are verbally stated in many ways to have left and came back to this planet. Some call it reincarnation. Some say um, they in the same they have the ability to take on avatars, or you know they can possess people, or what and what have you. Um, but certain entities that have been from the beginning, a people from or a entity from another dimension, another world, another galaxy, and wow, all of those things. But they all found a desire to have a place on this planet and have a thing to do with themselves in this world that was supposed to culminate or come to a conclusion of it being a factor by which they saw their beginnings become complete in a ongoing fashion, not an ending, but an ongoing fashion. So that you could say it was eternal, it was infinite, it was, you know, something that couldn't be stopped, even though it may have needed correction from time to time. And believe me, it was corrected from time to time. We can say in so many stories that we've heard or were told or have read ourselves that there was restarts. And I would even go to say that there have been resets in my day and times from you can say decade to decade, or you know I could even say at 50-year intervals. And those time spans were always a point of revelation. They can be told of and made to be seen on those time based points at which they were explained or caused to be. Um, Man, I was looking at the um, some videos. I'll just say some videos by was it Peculiar Histories or Peculiar Stories in History, something like that. And they show, a stream of um, we'll just say they showed median income from 1910 to 2025. They showed the price of eggs from 1910 to 2025. They showed the uh, price of gas from 1910 to 2025. And they had them all, you know, on a 5-year basis, the elevation of the economies and so on and so forth in those areas from 1910 to 2025. I mean, I wasn't very much surprised at it, but at the same time, it did say somebody kept up with all this stuff. And they made comparisons, statistical comparisons. They know good and well who did what in the economy, why it was done that way, and so on and so forth. And it all comes to a general consensus of what it is today and what is still planned to be. You know, I've heard in various genres that this United States corporation or incorporation or whatever you want to call it is to be dismantled, and is being dismantled as is being said by the government of the government. You know, even though they have outsiders like Elon Musk, who's not an elected official, but he's appointed to do certain things, and you know, Donald Trump's supposed to be the what? Dang, let me see. I can't recall it right off the bat. He's supposed to be the one to disassemble the corporate structure of America. Now, I don't quite get how he's supposed to be returning it to the rightful people of the land, but they say that's what's going on. So I can't say anything about that until I see more results or not enough results to state my feelings on it. But as a general consensus, hey, I see the matriarchy coming back online. I hear the chiefs chiefing and the matriarchs combining the nations of the indigenous people of the land. I hear the what you call them the nations other than that, like the Nation of Islam. The I hear various groups, even those that came over from Western countries who consider themselves Americans. Now they're not French Americans or Italian Americans or any, they're all Americans, okay? But we had those who were behind the scenes called extrusions or something like that. But these all these people are still considered controllers, and they're behind the scenes or they're not even being spoken of. But they are being spoken of in groups by groups that call them various things like the shadow governments, the black hand, the white hats, the so on and so forth, and all these other things. But as a general consensus, they're still, they come down the line from European societies as the Jesuits, the royalty that took over the royalty, the black royalty, the Moorish royalty, the Spanish royalty, and all of those things that came all the way down the line from, say, all the way through the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages, all of those Renaissance ages, and so on and so forth. All of those things, they have the whole story. And truthfully, you can start at any one of them from their beginning till today, and you'll find that if you look from west to the east, to the north, to the south, they all utilize veritably or unanimously the same ingredients as to their beginnings and how they played out. You can follow them from Europe, from the time that the Greeks came out of Egypt and said that they started philosophy and so on and so forth, all the way through to from the worship of the gods as the what is it? The Egyptian gods to the Roman gods, Greek gods, Roman gods, all the way down the line until you get to Catholicism, which used the Jesuits and all the rest of these. And all of them had All of them have different names or similar comparisons, such as the biblical stories of the Anunnaki, so on and so forth. Then you have the Epic of Gilgamesh. You have the um, Nakamata stories. I mean, all those different genres of the same information, and each one can complement or verify or conflict with each other, but they all have the same stories involved, you know, the same people involved, maybe given different names by different languages, but they're the same people, you know. Noah as Nish and Vishu in Nish and Fitu in Hindu and so on and so forth. But I mean, you know, the ark of the flood from the Bible rested on Mount Ararat. The ark of Gilgamesh rested in some other on some other mount. I can't keep all of that in my head to bring it up verbatim. But nevertheless, like I said, there's a general consensus that follows history throughout. People, groups of people, some say they were done bad, some say they were done good. And believe me, you know, it's a circle of events. And each come up, each go down, and then they come back around again. And I'm pretty much glad that I'm in alive today to see a coming around because I see that the first that was last is becoming first again. And that's a beautiful thing to me. A beautiful thing for me to see. Cause I didn't say I ever gave up hope or felt so forlorn that I didn't, continuously put forth my personal energy into defeating those mentalities and those structures that said, oh, we all of that and y'all ain't nothing. To say that, oh yeah, we all of that. And y'all gonna find out that that's where y'all got all y'all got from. That made y'all not be what y'all consider yourself as, even when you started out as nothing. A little less than nothing, but I ain't gonna go that far with it. And to summarize just about everything I've said in a nutshell, it's a pretty wonderful life to live. Choose what you want to be in that life and understand all of the components that you accept that make you what you are, who you are, and what you want to do with yourself that you can do. Nothing's beyond your reach. You understand? And it takes only a slight amount of effort with a constant applying of that effort to keep things on a straight path to success. Because the only failure that you'll reach is failing to put forth the effort. And that's my general consensus. And with that, I'm going to pretty much say good evening. And I'll see y'all the next time. Matter of fact, I'm going to start putting, like I said, I'm going to start putting all these things in order. I'm going to open myself up to questions. I'm going to open myself up to really a wider range of people that I haven't been around in quite some time so that I can get my thoughts across and find out if my general consensus can be reached or is reached by others. And that I'm going to say good evening.
And that has been Daru Mitchell with the general concession consensus, excuse me.